Mimosas with Michael. Mimosas with Michael. Mimosas with Michael. Yay!
Hi everybody, it's Michael Colon here with Mimosas with Michael, and I have a really awesome guest this week. I have Jasmin Shojai. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. It's been a very interesting year for me, but I'm doing good.
So what's so cool about this show is I do pre-record ahead of time, but you are in Australia and I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Yeah.
So we are 17 hours apart. So you are technically in tomorrow, and I am in yesterday for you.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've been to Los Angeles in the US before, and it is kind of funny because when we arrived in LA, we kind of felt lucky in the sense we gained another day. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? An extra day of life or something. So it was really cool.
Yeah, it's like you get that time back. So if I go to Australia, I lose that time. I like lose a day of my life.
Yes.
When I come back,
That's
that's interesting. So you're a model, you're a cover model, and
Yep.
so we're going to talk about that. And then I know that you also won Australia's Next Top Model. Is that correct? Am I saying that right?
It was the Australia's Top Glamour Model Search, and they really focused on all sorts of glamour models as such, like FHM models, girls who pose for Playboy, for Penthouse, and all those sort of magazines.
So how'd you get into modeling? Is that like something you fell into? Is it something you had kind of wanted to be when you were younger?
Like I always felt inspired since I was a teenager to do modeling. Since I was a little girl, actually, I really liked models and what they were doing. Like I'd watch a TV, I would see these models and other celebrities, and I think, wow, these people are really cool. Like I would just love to be like them. And it wasn't until I was 22 when I got out of a very bad time in my life, actually, that I decided to do something spontaneous. And that spontaneous decision was modeling. And I did my very first photo shoot, and I basically never looked back.
You're like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. That's awesome.
Yeah,
And
that's it. It was a very good time.
And so, what has been one of your favorite photo shoots? I'm sure you like them all. So I don't like. What are some of the ones that you really enjoyed?
I mean, the first one that just comes to mind, and it's not to say that it was like my favorite one, but I guess it's right up there, was my first Playboy cover shoot. So that was really cool. I had the opportunity to obviously be on the cover of Playboy Croatia, and this was back in 2018.
Yeah.
And it was just a very fun experience. It was a little bit nerve-wracking at first because they had a television crew from Naked News, and I was there posing nude in front of all these people. So it was kind of nerve-wracking in that sense. But like I think 15 or 20 minutes into it, I was having a lot of fun and feeling very relaxed.
I can imagine you're like you think you're gonna do a photo shoot and then maybe 3 or 4 people, and then this crew comes up and you're like, whoa. So, but it's good that you're like, you know, it's like, because I know like when you're naked, there's like a vulnerability that a lot of people don't realize because you're seeing everything, so you're vulnerable. But I'm glad that you were able to get past that. That's cool.
Yeah, like it makes a lot of women feel empowered when they do those types of shoots. If you talk to any other Playmate or Playboy model, they say the same thing. It's more of a confidence and empowering thing rather than the other way around. Of course, in saying that, like everyone is different. So, people do things that make them feel good. And, posing for Playboy and being a professional model was one of the things that makes me feel confident, and it's something that I'm very passionate about as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you get to go to the Playboy Mansion?
Oh my gosh, I've been asked that so many times and I've never actually had the chance. It's really funny because I think most of the models that do go to the Playboy Mansion, so I've heard anyway,
Yeah.
are the ones that are involved directly with US Playboy, or I think even Playboy Mexico, I'm not too sure. So all of my Playboy appearances, although I posed for Playboy like 10 times, they've all been for international editions. So I do remember at one stage getting a notification from my PR regarding Playboy USA about opening opportunities, and they actually did want to see my work. But at that stage, we hadn't heard anything back, and it was like, oh, I think I remember being told by several industry professionals that I think for the most part, a lot of these magazines, especially Playboy US or even going to like the original Vogue, they have a lot of incoming traffic. So it's a very competitive, thing. In other words, they have a lot of people wanting to be inside the magazine, and I guess they can only choose ever so many. So it hasn't like put my confidence down or anything. If anything, it's empowered me more to do better. And yeah, from what I've heard from other industry professionals who have attended the Playboy Mansion, yeah, they say the events are very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been. I've had tons of friends that go, but I just hear that the mansion itself is like very spectacular. Like the pools have like a waterfall and stuff. And I was like, it just seems like a really just cool place to go and hang out with people. So I've never been either. So there you go. But it is a huge deal, I believe, that you've been on the cover. Like that's so fascinating and amazing. How did you get that? Can you talk about that?
Well, it was actually a very straight forward opportunity in a way. I mean, before I did my first Playboy cover, I'd already done Playboy a few times.
Okay.
I had already done other magazines. I was already modeling. So I guess the foundation was there, and we were networking with a lot of people already by that stage. So we had some contacts in Canada, and we organized a photo shoot and submission with photographer Anthony Randall. And he obviously had been working with magazines like Playboy Croatia already for a while. So it's like we had the foundation there. It was just a matter of obviously physically getting to Canada and then organizing this photo shoot. And that, happened with time. And I have to say it was one of the best decisions I made. Whilst going to Canada, I also toured the United States, so that was a lot of fun as well.
So that leads me to two questions. So my one question is as a model, you've probably traveled to many places. So I want to know what one of your favorite places that you got to shoot, and then you toured the U.S. So what were some of your places here in the U.S. you got to visit?
I saw Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Seattle, where my US management team is actually based. So I did a lot in all of those cities. It was a very, very jam-packed tour, but I had so much fun, and it was like it got me experience, contacts as well, and it gave me a lot of nice memories. The 2019 tour wasn't as long, but it was still very productive. So I look back at those things and say, wow, I'm so glad that I did that. It was something that I'll never forget, and obviously I've gained a lot from it. I think for the most part, especially with a lot of these men's magazines, there's more opportunities outside of Australia. And for me, because I'm very passionate about what I do, it was like not even a question. It was more like, okay, this is what I want. What do I need to do next? So even before the tour actually or physically happened, there were a lot of things, a lot of ideas in mind, a lot of planning that happened, and therefore it, it began. And a lot of people get a misinterpretation that these things take only a few weeks to organize, when really they don't.
Yeah.
It may seem that things will go fast, which personally speaking it did, but it takes time. So I can easily say a few months worth of organization went into that.
Yeah, I guess when you look at the final product, it's kind of like when we make a movie. because I work in film, and it's like there's all the months of planning, and then there's the making the movie, and then there's editing it. You just watch the final product, for 2 hours, and you're like, it's the same. It's like you see the picture, but you don't realize it's like the planning of it, and then you got to get there, and then you have to go through makeup and all that stuff. So there's all these like little steps but you just see the final product. So
exactly. So there's a lot of things that go into it, and it's so funny because the organization is the most draining and most longest part in my opinion, but when you're actually there on set, you have so much fun, but the time just goes so fast.
Exactly. And so then how does something like that differ from your experience when you did the modeling show? Because it was an actual show, right? So it's a little different.
The Glamour Model Search was kind of like based on videos and just like a physical event. Okay. So a lot of the time, the director, the person who actually organized the whole show, the whole competition, I should say, he basically did like a tour across Australia. So I think for me, I was based in Canberra, but for some reason they couldn't get to Canberra, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really, really want to be a part of this. So I went and did my bit in another city. Okay. And it was really funny because at that time, and I remember this so well, a lot of the models who were, in the competition were already like really established. And you know what? I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just my optimism, but I really felt like I had potential and that I really wanted this. Mm-hmm. So I look back and I think, well, if I didn't have that sort of mindset or that passion to move forward, I wouldn't be where I am. Despite all of the, I guess, the thoughts that a person just starting out may have when they enter a competition, I basically just pushed forward and had a really great time. So it was great because it was one of those competitions where I think most of the girls actually did get recognition. Like everyone was put into like a calendar at that time. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I was Miss July from memory. Yeah. Okay. So
that's a good month.
Yeah, so. It's really fun.
That's so cool. How fascinating. And so then what's on the horizon? What's on the horizon for you? Have anything else coming up for the future?
I have a lot coming up.
Okay.
And I have to say, when I say it's been an interesting year, I have to say it's been a very up and down sort of year. Like a lot of things, I guess, for lack of a better description, just happened, or maybe a lot of things happened which, maybe shouldn't have. But I think, without sounding too, restricted here, I think a lot of people are, whether they're doing modeling or something else, are kind of in the same position. So I always tell myself that. I think we all kind of just got thrown into the same boat. And moving forward, I'm working on a lot of projects, one of them being my reality web series. So it's like a developing project because of how delayed things are, but sooner or later we'll get there, and fans can watch episodes 1 and 2 on my Daily Motion channel. So I'm just glad we really we were able to still move forward and do something. But funny enough, most of my work this year has been more based on magazine work and interviews, and I think that's because the world really wants to connect right now and just get to know everybody. So I found that to be very good positive.
Yeah, it does seem, especially in this age of like COVID, that people are just like, because a lot of us are spending so much time alone. And I know your country's probably handling it different than ours, but a lot of us here are just so hungry for attention because we're spending so much time alone, especially in the first few months of the pandemic. So it's nice to be able to have, I think, that outlet that people can find a way to connect. And so tell us a little bit about your reality TV show.
So my reality, so it's as I said before, it's a developing project. So I think there's a lot of room for bigger storylines or bigger events, or you know what I mean. It's just something that's obviously going to get better with each episode. But the good news is I've spoke to a lot of other people I know in the industry. So we have some really cool ideas, which I don't want to reveal just now. But for the most part, it will be about documenting about what happens behind the scenes, what I do in between photo shoots, perhaps, how I feel about each and every experience that I do as I talk to the camera. So in a sense, I think it is a bit of a documentary in a way, but at the same time, that's how I kind of wanted to portray it, as something that documents what I'm up to and who I am and so on. But yeah, we have a lot of like bigger ideas for the future, and I think as my team agrees with me, 2020 is just the beginning. It's there's just so much more to come, and we feel that next year there will be bigger opportunities, or there'll just be a chance to develop projects like this even more.
Yeah, and what's good about, I mean, not good specifically, but like what sort of happened, I think, with the pandemic is like it gave everybody a chance to sort of like stop and regroup and be like, oh, okay, well, what wasn't working? And I think now going into the second half, really the fourth quarter of 2020 is like, okay, we learned from all these things that we happened, and now facing the last quarter of the year, going into the following year, it's like we know what avenues we need to do. I'm finding that with a lot of artists. I think being able to find some these positives out of something that was so a negative in a sense is I think one of the most fascinating things about being an artist is like, yes, this happened. Yes, we all have to go through it, but it's like instead of it holding us down, it's like, what can we do? How can we create? How can we move forward? How can we learn from it? So that's actually really kind of cool.
That's it.
Yeah, is there a cover of a magazine you haven't been on but you'd love to be on?
Yeah, I mean, I could easily name a few, in all honesty. I'd love to be on the cover of Playboy US or even Playboy Mexico, as they have a really, really big brand and network. I'd love to be on the cover of Vogue, Maxim, Harper's Bazaar. And funny enough, like I did get published in a Middle Eastern publication not so long ago, and it's really funny because I'm half Persian, and I never had been published in any sort of like Middle Eastern magazine or brand. So that was my very first one, funny enough, and I guess I never really thought about it that way. But yeah, to be published in even like Vogue Arabia would be like, I think, a really cool thing, because they have some very interesting things going on. I've seen bits and pieces of the magazine, and it's definitely a fashion mag like the original Vogue, but it's got a different touch to it. It's very interesting. So yeah, a lot of, like I said, a lot of positive things have come out of this year. I guess it's all about perspective and how you look at it, but I definitely agree. I think for the most part, a lot of people have kind of regrouped themselves and said, okay, what do I need to do? What do I really, I guess, deserve in life? And then, we've all at least started to make the necessary steps to move forward from there.
Oh yeah, I would definitely agree with that. You said something earlier that I wanted to touch on again, and it was about you doing your photo shoot when you were nude, and then the crew would come in, and you said eventually you felt empowered. So I want to explore that a little bit more about how do you feel empowered, and then how can you help other women, feel empowered about being a woman and feeling beautiful about themselves. Does that make sense?
I think it can be really hard, especially with social media these days. I think it can be more difficult for young girls, but I think age should really come into the factor, because there's women of all ages who don't feel happy with themselves for any sort of reason, and it doesn't have to necessarily be, oh, I don't think I look beautiful. It could be other reasons, especially being a domestic violence victim myself. I can understand when outside influences such as a partner can make a person feel very, very bad. And it's really funny because I'm studying business at the moment, and I kind of picked up this book on the side which talks about just really practical things, but it's a very bright book, and it's still factual. It's not just about positivity. And some of the things it states in there, it's more based on a professional sort of terminology, but it kind of relates to anything, even like family environments. But yeah, moving forward, it talks about how a environment, like who you directly work with, or I guess who you directly interact with, will be your environment and therefore will impact your happiness and success.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to say people should blame whoever's around them, but I guess if you're in an environment which seems toxic, whether it's work or whether it's personal, you need to question whether or not, you know, that's the right thing for you, or for anyone for that matter. And anyway, going back to the photo shoots, yeah, like I've never really had a toxic environment. It's always been very positive, very professional, and very empowering. And I guess it all makes sense because, you know, if that wasn't the case, I certainly wouldn't be a model right now. I would have turned away eventually. And I think that's the same with everybody who's in the creative industry. And yeah, no, it was a very, very empowering experience, and I really enjoyed the whole thing.
I get what you're saying about social media, because I'm a little bit older. I'm in my 40s, my early 40s, but like I am on social media and I see like all these like young hot guys that, like with their shirts off, and I'm like, I can't be like that, you know. And it's like, and you see on dating apps, and it's like how do you kind of compete with all that? And it's like I'm supposed to feel empowered by who I am, but like society's telling me that I have to be empowered by this, and I know that's much more prevalent for women than it is for men. So I mean, how can women feel empowered with all of this, like this negative talk around them? Because I think that's so important that women nowadays, it's mostly in 2020, need to feel more empowered than ever, you know?
I think it can be a very complicated answer because I remember even going back to this book. Wow, it's just been, it's kind of like I was reading this book and I knew these things already, but these kind of got reinstated in a more clear and powerful way. But it even talks about your values, and everyone's values is different. And obviously, if you have your values in clear picture to yourself and you follow them, then automatically you're going to be happy. So for a lot of women, one of their biggest values may be having the perfect hair, right? And if they can't have that, that's automatically or naturally going to make that person feel bad. So I guess like one of my biggest tips for women is not to feel bad or guilty why something, you know, doesn't go right and then they feel bad, because I think that's an automatic, you know what I mean? If you are very concerned about your skin and that's a very valuable thing for you, especially if you had like some sort of problematic skin issue, then you shouldn't have to feel bad as to why, you know, you're concerned about that. But in saying that, you know, I guess in anything, be practical. If things aren't working out the way they are, I guess question it, regroup, and then move forward. And as I was saying, the environment that you're in plays a huge role in how you feel as well. So as much as you can go onto social media and be maybe somewhat jealous of what these other people are having, I mean, you can ask yourself, okay, do I want these things? And then if you do, you know, obviously go and achieve that. But again, it comes down to you and it comes down to your environment. So if your environment is actually preventing you from being a more happier person, then that's just not cool. So it's really funny, like a lot of these things I think I knew deep down, but through COVID and through, you know, any sort of studies that I did, I kind of realized it even more of how important these things are. So I think a lot of women and men, and even like young people, like teenagers, it doesn't hurt to kind of know this, because as you grow up, you want to be able to have just a happy and at least a somewhat smooth life. So again, social media can be very problematic.
And I do hear a lot of like, you have to understand, I think people say this, or it's like, there's like your social media life and then there's your real life. And of course people are going to always post the best, you know. So I think you're right when you're saying it's really a mindset, and realize, and like we're definitely going to put our best forward on social media, but like you can't let that that moment on social media shape the way that you look at things, right? It's really a mindset, I think. Yeah, I think that's important.
It is.
Yeah, and I think it's very important for young women to hear that, mostly because I think they do feel shamed in a lot of ways, and it's good to hear someone like you say that and be like, no, it's okay. Like, you have to love for who you are, and realize that, like, if you're around these things that don't work, like if you're in a bad relationship or with people that don't work, it's okay to remove those things and be stronger than that.
Yeah, exactly. It's sometimes it's sometimes the only thing you can do in a sense. I mean, another thing I realized the other day, and I'm kind of happy to really share this actually, because I think it was, again, another moment of realization for me, because I'm only 26. I have had a bit of life experience, but not necessarily as much compared to other people. And
Yeah.
I guess, like, there were things this year that I wasn't so happy about. I mean, mostly good things, but then of course we all have our disappointments. And for some of those disappointments that I had, it came to a point where I just couldn't, I suppose, deal or tolerate with that anymore. And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes life just brings you to that point, and you'll know it as a person. You'll know, okay, wow, this is just going beyond me. And it's at that point, as the words say, when you reach that point, that you need to just make a decision whether to fix the situation or, unfortunately, move forward.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes it's not about instant decisions, but like life, I guess, will tell you. It will lead you to a place, and then at that moment or at that point, as I've repeated, you'll need to make some strong decisions. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, because I don't think it's normal to have a life where it's just one straight line and you never have any bumps or turns. So it makes perfect sense.
Oh yeah, no, trust me, the older I get, the more I realize life is always sort of deviating. Like, you might have a straight goal in mind, but that road is you're gonna take all these detours to get there. But I mean, sometimes I think those detours can be fun. And I think one of the things that people need to remember is there may be things that you don't have control over, but there are definitely things that you do have control over. And sometimes it's just as simple as changing a mindset or a perspective, the way you look at things. And I think I've been hearing that a lot from people, especially in the sort of climate that we're in. And I think that's so important, because, like, we're all in this together. Like, you in Australia are dealing with it, we in the United States are dealing with it, and we all have, like, this kind of even common ground, right? And I think that's why people are, like, so eager to reach out, because it's like, I see you and you totally get what I'm going through, right? And it's so universal.
Yeah.
Right? And I think now is a perfect time for artists, because people are hurting, and it's not because really it's mostly just because life threw everybody a big curveball, and it's like now we're all like, okay, we're all even, we're all figuring this out together, and it's like, now I think the perfect time to create. So I really wish you all the best. I appreciate you coming on the show and talking about yourself, and I'm really excited. So where can people find you?
So I'm on several places on social media. For my reality web series, most importantly, all that fans have to do is to head on to Daily Motion and search Jasmin Shojai TV.
Okay.
On Facebook and Instagram, I'm Jasmin Shojai Model. And on Twitter, I'm Jasmin_Shojai. So I tend to promote my channels on, all over the place. So most likely people will be able to find all the different platforms I have.
Yeah, and we'll link everything in the show notes. So do you have any advice you'd want to give anybody before we wrap up? Because I'm going to tell you, this 30 minutes goes by really fast.
Okay. Reach for the stars and you'll be there among them. And it makes perfect sense. Just quickly, another 2 ways of wording that is that if you aim high, even if you don't exactly reach that height, the chances are, or the facts are, especially if you believe in yourself, you are going to get close. Because if I say, if I'm on a running track and I say, okay, I'm going to reach that tree, which is only maybe a few meters away, the chances are I'm going to reach that tree, or maybe you know, not really reach that far if I'm not a really good runner. But if I aim further, even if I'm not that athletic, I'm going to make it past that tree. And that's the really interesting thing about your mind and then what you physically do. And, you know, another way of looking at this, and I realize this with a lot of people, unfortunately, even young people sometimes, which really disappoints me, because I think, you know, when you're young, you should be trying to do the best that you can.
Yeah.
And when you look at people, sometimes I say, you know, for multiple reasons, it could be their environment, it could be something else. They say, okay, I'm not really going to do this. I'm going to do something similar because, oh, I don't think I can do it. But see, that's a very bad outlook. So if you think of it as a bullseye on like a target, if you say, okay, I'm going to shoot an arrow, but I'm going to aim just right next to the middle target because I don't think I could get to the target.
Yeah.
What's probably going to happen is you're going to get the mark that you're aiming for, or you're going to get a little bit away from the mark.
Yeah.
Which I find that really stupid. You may as well aim for your target, and again, chances are that you'll get there or you'll get close to your main target. Yeah. So again, it's all about reaching out for what you really want and what you really deserve.
Well, that is a beautiful sentiment. Thank you for sharing that. Again, everybody, thank you so much to Jasmin for being on the show. Again, I wish you all the best. I think next year, 2021, we're going to see you in a lot more magazines. I feel very, very confident with that. So I'm going to send you good, positive energy for bigger, better magazines, Playboy US, everything. It's going to happen. Because I know that's like where you've been focused, you know, like that's your target, so you're aiming for it. That's your bullseye. So good luck with everything.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. So everybody, this is Michael Colon with Mimosas with Michael. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're also going to be on IGTV and YouTube. So look for Mimosas with Michael, and please go support Jasmin Shojai. Thank you so much for being on the show. Okay, you have a great day.